Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Hi.
the podcast. And today I am with Ogeyi, and she is an author of Synesthesialgia. Synesthesialgia
Yes.
it's a poet collection, and I will tell you more about it. Here is a beautiful cover that I want to show you. This is the book, and this is Ogeyi, and I've been wanting to have her on this show forever. Let me remove that. And I'll tell you a little bit about this book. I'll tell you a little bit about Ogeyi. First of all, let me read her bio. Ogeyi is a creative artist whose name translates to more than the eye can see. She is a writer and a stylish intellectual. She is a UCI graduate with a degree in sociology. Her background and talent allow her to convey the vein of the vibrational frequencies of the spirit of the heart. She translates a vibe in a way that resonates with the soul and stimulates the mind. Her writings create the lyrics to the melodies of the human heart with a spark of eccentricity and authenticity. I hope I pronounced all those words, big words.
Reading my dictionary.
So when I say this is a poetic collection, you can see she's a poet by just how she describes herself. So welcome, Ogeyi, to Free and Alive podcast. So nice to have you. I love to interview people who are on what we call the personal development journey, which I think we should all be on until the day that we die.
Yes.
Right? So first of all, I want you to help us pronounce this word so I can pronounce it well the whole time.
Okay.
And then tell us about the title. Please speak on.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I pronounce it Synesthesialgia. And part of the reason why I pronounce it that way too is just because I wanted it to kind of have like a similarity to nostalgia, because a lot of nostalgia is dealt with in this book in terms of familiarity with the past and linking with the current into the future. So synesthesia is something that a lot of artists experience where they hear music and they see colors, or like, for example, if you like hear a certain sound or whatever, you associate it with a color, like maybe a book dropping is a color purple or something. And so a lot of artists like Billie Eilish, I believe, has it, Kanye West, they have synesthesialgia where they just see music and just see colors. When they're listening to a song, they're like, oh, this song is yellow or blue or green and all these stuff. So synesthesialgia is actually a painful version of it. So when I think about emotions, I think about the different colors and variants and emotions and how we feel. Mm-hmm. And synesthesialgia is a painful version of that. And it's also associated with when one side of your body feels a certain way and the other doesn't. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking about the battle between good and evil, hence the wings. So like the dark wing and the light wing. And I was thinking about the battle between, the angel and, the demon that could be, talking to you, like which one you listen to, which one is going to be captivated, which one are you going to decide to be captivated by? Because we all have free will to choose what we're going to follow. So I thought, okay, that's perfect. Synesthesialgia. It's like the battle within oneself and like, seeing the true colors of your emotions and your feelings, but like a painful version of it. Because I always think about artwork. I mean, some people make artwork when they're happy, right? But they're usually too busy having fun with stuff like that. Like, for example, like Adele now is like making new music because of stuff that's happened in her life. People are like excited. So.
Right. That is awesome. Yeah. So I'm here to help our viewers to kind of digest all of this in layman's term. So I'm going to tell you how I describe your book. Your book is coaching with poetry. This is what this book is, because it has so much depth in terms of like what you go through when you experience somebody when you see evil at its height. What is it like when you discover like there is so much evil in this world, and people can be so evil, right? But but the battle, all of us have a battle within us of good and evil. There's a good and evil of all of us. It's not just some of us. It's the people who discover their own evil and their own good who are well balanced. Because if you see yourself as all good, what happens? You always attract those bad boys that because you're not in touch with the bad within yourself. Have you noticed that the good girls always who attract who?
Yeah, it's like Gwen Stefani says, why do the good girls always want the bad boys?
Because they're not in touch with the bad within themselves. And so they draw that in. There's a mystery within themselves they've never been in touch with. And so they attract that. And if you
it's the naivety.
You're right. And if it's a naivety, and then if you see yourself as all bad, you become obsessive compulsive about wearing the nice clothes all the time, always appearing perfect. And then you want to get a perfect good person so that they could be your good. And so you always like idolize perfection, and you expect only perfection in your spouse. And that's what we were talking about earlier, about the king and queen narrative that we're hearing, that someone said, I want to find my king, because you haven't really been in touch with all of yourself, because we're not all kings, right? Well, we were talking about that narrative earlier.
Yeah, I don't.
That whole queen and king narrative, what is that doing to people? What do you think if I'm seeing myself as royalty? What does that do?
Well, I feel like a lot of people have a problem in terms of status and appeal. So a lot of people think about winning somebody's heart as if it's something that you're supposed to fight against. Like, why are we even in battle in the first place? Like, why is it that people are looking at things in master and slave position? And it has to do a lot with power. And a lot of people don't believe in themselves. Like, I've met people, and I remember there's this girl, I saw her and she's like panicking, freaking out. And I said, why are you freaking out? And she's like, well, that guy is so cute and I'm going to run into him. And I was like, you sit there and you stare at his power and then you forget your own. And she was just like, what? And I'm like, you need to hone your power. Like, what are you doing? And so I feel like a lot of people, when they're trying to hone their power, they almost like shoot for the moon, like, let me just say I'm a queen, like, as if you own all this stuff. And so it's like they need to like over exaggerate just to get a little bit of whatever. But then some people take it really far and they take it very seriously, and just like, all of a sudden you're above people, as opposed to, not
being right there. And the Bible says too, do not see yourself as above others. Don't see others as see others as better than yourself. Actually, that's what it says, and so always see yourself as in service to other people, which we're going to come to to the Jezebel spirit, I think, which you write about later on and stuff like that. And so a little bit about this book. There are 70 poems, 70. So there's 70 truths about everything to do with I think a lot of it is relationships, really. Like, it covers a lot of what people go through in relationships. And the first one that I wanted to highlight was Walk in Truth. And I will read I won't read all the poem, but I wanted to read the part for me that really just stood out.
Okay.
And it's Walk in Truth. I thought when I missed you, it was a sign that if I couldn't be with you, it must be divine. You said the creator of the universe rekindled our love, but the source was from you and not from God above. Right. I mean, so the reason why is because a lot of the times we vacillate between like going back to our exes. So that's what I'm saying. When people go back, why are you getting back with your ex? A lot of the times, why do you see that? People going back to the previous.
A lot of it has to do with comfort and familiarity. Like, people forget how powerful those two things are. Like, you could feel so at home in the worst, dirtiest place ever. Like, there are people that can just go back to, and it's just because they remember it. It's like, oh, I remember. Like, if you see your teddy bear and it's all beat up, you're like, oh, I remember. It doesn't matter that it's like, wow, that's just a beat up item. you have memories, you have associations with it. That is super, super powerful, right? So a lot of people, what ends up happening is that, you know, when you have a breakup, you're like lost and you try to go out there, and usually the first person that you try to, like, you know, something, and then it just makes you miss that other person if it doesn't work out. Right. Oh, okay, this other person, well, you know what, so-and-so wasn't so bad. Now I think about it, this person just openly rejected me and it doesn't feel so good. You know, right. Like if I can, it's like, do I keep searching on the job market, or do I go back to my old job, which I can kind of tolerate, but this other person is like looking me up and down, and what do I have to offer them, you know, except my broken self? This person already knows me. I don't need to re-explain my whole life, you know?
Right. So, and I want to help somebody. The other day I was just thinking about that. Every time I think about going back to my ex, this is what I think about. When an employer is looking to hire, they don't go through their list of people they fired before so that they can go and hire them. How many employers do you know go through their list of people they fired? Like they have a reason, like literally take out all the warning sign, all the stuff that they did. And they're like, you know what? Look at this person. We really are desperate. We need to go through that list.
Exactly.
No, we're so desperate. We can't. Why? Yeah. So they're like, why go through the interview process when we can just hire the people we fired? No, they don't ever do that. And so I said, no way am I going through that list. Because I know it's dysfunctional for me to do that. I need to keep moving forward. Keep it moving. And this is why sometimes when you write this poem, honestly, you write like you somebody who's been married before, and you are single, like literally never been married, but you have so much wisdom. Like in the same poem you wrote, they say when you get married that you should stick it through. There are no words I regret more than saying I do. I cringe at the thought till death do us part. It was a lie from the beginning. Can I have a new start? I pray, oh God, to renew my heart. I came from a broken family, split apart. My childhood, looking back, was a feel-good, terrible show. I didn't know it then until I saw how much I had to grow. I treasured it all because it's nostalgic. Looking back at it now, I understand the logic. What?
Like, you know,
you took thoughts out of my head. Put them right here in this book.
You know, talking, you know, being a coach and talking to people who've been divorced and talking to people who I know may get a divorce later, unfortunately, or fortunately, you know, because if you're living a lie, it needs to end. And a lot of people don't have the clarity until they're, you know, it's like that Fight Club quote, once you lose everything, you're free to do anything suddenly. And so you're able to like look at things in a different way. And just that walk in truth, I was very, very in like a very spiritual place when I was writing. I was like, okay, like I can tune into things that I've witnessed and things that I can foresee happening. So that one was more of like a premonition of like, I can see maybe 2 years from now, this is where this person is going to be. Right. This clarity, you know, it's when it's all, we'll see if it actually comes to fruition. Sometimes I see stuff visionary right there. So like, I just went through the emotions and the feelings and the thoughts of like somebody who's like, I'm trying to do the right thing and I'm going for this marriage. And then just thinking about it like, wow, we really forced something that was not his force, but my force, because I just, you know.
Right. How much did we I'm telling you, how much do we force dysfunctional relationships? Like you can tell, you can see the red flags, but your oxytocin and your endorphins are just clouding you. And everybody else who is not feeling those emotions can see this thing is heading to hell. Right. They can see it. They're feeling you, but because they're not clouded with all your emotions.
Right.
And you know what? A lot of the times, I'm telling you, I think 100% of the people I talk to who have divorced because of abuse said they saw it beforehand. Yeah. They knew it before they got into, and they can admit it. They knew it. They were hit when they were girlfriend, boyfriend. They were hit. They were lied to. They were thrown off the bus. I mean, they were thrown under the bus many times. I mean, so many things happened beforehand and they knew it, but they got into it anyway.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
So,
people marry their imagination all the time. Yeah. All the time. And then reality makes them try to face it. And then some people end up being like WandaVision, where they just expand their world and say, no way, I'm going to push the boundaries of my fantasy further so that I don't have to deal with the current reality that this isn't working. And it's sad because people just don't believe in reality that much in this sense, because it's like, okay, if you believed that you could do better, want better, have everything, all this stuff, would you? A lot of people don't believe in the aftermath of a relationship. They just see that is it. I don't want to try all over again. I made an analogy in my first book. Like, let's say you gave somebody an item and you told them, this is $3,000 and they pay $3,000 and you tell them, hey, sorry, that thing is actually worth a penny. You know how many people would have a hard time throwing that thing away? It's not because they'd be like, I paid $3,000. I don't care if it's worth a penny. I paid $3,000.
You paid $3,000, right? It's because it's what you've invested, and I think you stay longer. I mean, you're like, oh, I already invested 1 year, I can't break up, and then the next year you're like, oh, I've got 2 years in it, I can't break up. And then you keep going. You're like, man, I've had 20 years invested. I can't leave. It's like you keep investing in something that you know that you could have gotten out a long time ago. You know what? The most common statement that the older women that I meet that left after 25 years or 30, because they left after 3, they're like, how did you leave so soon? They always say, I could have left sooner. The ones who left 20, the number one regret was, I should have left sooner.
Yeah.
And what a regret to go through after when you're 60 years old and you're saying that.
Yeah.
It was, and this was when I was separated. And I would talk to women who were older. It was that they were marrying not the man, but the investment. They were staying because of the investment, the $3,000 that you're talking about.
Yes.
They're like, I spent $30,000 on this wedding. I'm not leaving. I spent this much. I can't waste it.
Right.
And so they're not looking forward to like what God is offering them. And,
no, they can't. They literally can't see it. And not only that, but they just, it's really, really sad when you think about it, because it's like you have, you're trying to hope for something good for yourself. I feel like a lot of these people are kind of hoping like, maybe I'll have that magical thing where they just change. Like a lot of people have that like sad fantasy of like, well, you know what? He was really good to me this week. And so maybe there's hope for us. Maybe I'll be the top 10% of people that get, what they actually want. Like me, I think I'm that person, because when I look at this person,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's really, really hard to divorce something you're invested in. It's almost like getting rid of your degree. It's like, no, I still have my degree. I can't sit there and say that I'm going to start over. I mean, some people do, but it's hard. It's really, really hard. But the more you invest, the harder it is. It's like corrosive. It's harder.
It's true. And I just want to make it clear that we are not advocating for divorce. I have never literally gone to anyone and told them like, you need to leave this marriage. And never in a million years will I ever tell somebody to leave their husband. Now, I will be able to, if your life is in danger, he's holding a gun to your head, he's holding a sword, a knife, he's threatening your life. That's a whole separation. You can intervene because you are obligated as a good citizen, as a good Samaritan, to be able to help somebody to save their life.
Right.
That is the moment where I can be able to step in. I won't step in alone because I'm part of Resilient Souls, an organization that really supports victims of human trafficking and domestic violence and complex trauma. So we can step in at that point. But when it's like psychological abuse, financial abuse, I don't know if somebody is in it because they're addicted to the flame. You don't want to take somebody out of the fire because they might be addicted to the flames. They might be masochists. You don't know if they're actually wanting pain. There are people who are just addicted to pain. They love it. They want to punish themselves. And speaking about punishing yourself, going on to the next one, it's called the one that I want to talk to is that poem you wrote, The Needed List. This is speaking to people who love to punish themselves for this. Everything they did in the past is something that they're doing to make sure they pay penance for all the wrong things that they did. He says, you didn't want an equal, you wanted a servant. I wanted a lover, and I got a serpent. And here I was at your very service. You pretended to love me, at least on the surface. I tended to all your wounds and became your nurse. I would heal your body while you gave my soul a curse. I felt responsible for you. Could things have been any worse? I've heard of wicked people like you from a Bible verse. So, and I underlined this part. It says they were cunning and manipulative to get all their glory. Wow. These are the people that we attract, right? If you haven't dealt with your stuff, you always attract people who will manipulate and control you, right?
Right. Like there's something about value when, like, even in movies, what's tantalizing? The wanted list. That's what's tantalizing. It's like, oh, this is really, like, you really, really want. There are people that believe that they'll never, ever be wanted. And that's what's sad. And so when I wrote that poem, The Needed List, it's like, what's the next best option? The needed list. If I fulfill a need, maybe love will be granted in some way. And I feel like a lot of people end up putting themselves on that list, whether it be like, hey, I'm a millionaire and maybe I don't have anything else to offer, but here's my money and nothing else to offer you. Or, or here's my body, but then like I have nothing else. People just offer things to sustain a need and thinking like, oh, if I give them something they need, they're going to love me. It's like the person that comes and brings, like, let's say there's two items that comes to your door, something you need and something you want. The person that brings you water, here's your water. Oh, thank you. You need it to drink. But if you really wanted the Nintendo 64 or whatever, and somebody brings that, like, what is going to excite you more to be enticed? The water or the Nintendo 64? The want. So I think people get in the frame of mind that, like, it doesn't matter if it's a want or a need. It actually matters a lot. It's actually critical. And if you have your equal, you are on the wanted list, not the needed list.
Oh, I get what you're trying to say. So I don't want to marry out of need.
No.
Right? I want to marry out of want, correct?
Yes.
Yes. You don't want to be like, I got to have that person because I need him.
Yes.
So not a good position to be in, right?
No. You want to be on the wanted list. Trust me.
Yes.
The wanted list is the good stuff, It's the good
stuff. So if there are people who are not qualified to start dating again, that was people who have, if you've just left a marriage, you're on the needing list. You need somebody right away.
And you know what happens with those people? It's like they'll find somebody sometimes and they're like, oh, thank you so much for healing me. Okay, now I'm going to this other person.
Right.
Why? It doesn't build attraction. It just doesn't. Wanted list builds attraction. Hey, so, I got this new game coming out. Water, is something you need, but how do you build it? You can build attraction with water, I guess, if you have the best tasting water ever. But you see how hard it is to work something that you just need?
Because once you quench my thirst, I'm moving on to like, oh, look at some. Oh, thanks for the water. I'm not thirsty anymore. Oh, look at that Kool-Aid.
Exactly.
Look at that glass of wine. Exactly. You know what I mean? I'm not thirsty anymore. Bye-bye.
Right.
See you later.
And there's something kind of with the needed list that kind of goes here because you're like, I kind of need that thing, so I guess I have to. You see what I'm saying? You don't want to be with somebody that you go, I guess I have to, like, when people go like, oh, I just got to spend time with my so-and-so because they need me right now. They're like not feeling well. That's why sometimes with people, I tell them, like, if you're going to go out there and start dating, don't sit there and tell them all your woes and how you need money and all these things. It's like, now you're saying like what you need. And so if you're sitting there and talk about your needs, people go, oh, so you want me to be caretaker? that's not something that you have with your equal. Your equal, you do stuff you both want. We both like to hike or something, you know, it's about wants, not needs. If you're leading with needs, you're saying, I'm not in a position to be with my equal because I have a problem that I have to fulfill or I should fulfill for you, right? Hey, like, you know, I've known guys that like have tried to like negotiate dates. Hey, I got into this special thing. You want to come with me? Sure. Okay. That girl only wanted to go to that event. She did not want to spend time with you. You think that all of a sudden now she's going to want you after? No, she wanted to get in to meet whomever, you know? And so there are people that think that they keep doing that or they don't even care because they're like, well, at least I get to spend time with this beautiful person or what have you. And it's kind of like, you're not really getting access to this person. If you were to get access, it would be a want, not a need.
Not a need. Right. So I got to read what I underlined here. It says, the same poem, I catered to you with my servitude, yet you punished me with your attitude. I've never met anyone this rude. I love that line. And yet I'm the one you call a prude. Wow. What a power dynamic, right? That's a good position to be in. Servitude.
Right. Really, and you've seen people like they'll do something really nice for their spouse or whatever. And the person is just like, and you didn't get the French fries. I wanted them crispy and they weren't crispy enough. Thanks. You know, like you're like, whoa. Whoa. Like that person meant no harm to you, but you're insulting them. There are people that won't go get you French fries, you know?
Right. Yeah.
You know, so now everybody's humble when they receive something, and it's because it's not from. But if it was from somebody they really wanted, they'd be like, "Oh, I don't care. Oh, thank you." You know what I mean? It's sad. Oh, your mic went off. I don't think I can hear you. Your mic. Let's see. Oh, okay. So
sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I think my book hit it. Like.
Oh, okay. No wonder.
Okay. All right, so moving on to my next one. First of all, let me just say how deeply personal this poem is. I mean, because it's your thoughts, it's your own thoughts, but I think it's like you're taking our thoughts and putting them in there because a lot of people would say these things, you know?
Yes.
And this is one of those things. It's always, when I was reading this book, it seems like you were just in my head, everything that I was thinking and putting them right in here. And this is one of them. And that's why I highlighted it. It says, what was I thinking? I was out of my mind. The spirit of your heart had a wicked incline. When people asked how we're doing, I'd always say, fine. My short and quick answer was sadly a sign. So, by the way, I can't read poetry. I can tell I'm not a poet.
It's okay.
I'm like, I can't read poetry. What's going on?
No, it's okay. But it is something that people do. Like I've seen it, like, you know, with, how are you and so-so doing? Oh, we're fine. And then that look down of like remembering the last argument you had that was really bad, end the relationship, but you can't share that with people because you want to protect your relationship. Because I remember one thing a friend of mine told me once. He's like, the thing about relationships is that if you know you're going to forgive the person, it's probably best not to tell your friends that won't forgive them.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Like,
by the way, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to forgive them, but your friends won't, like now you've started this whole thing.
That's why gossip is bad. Do not.
Yeah, gossip is bad.
They're just gonna just write them off completely because honestly, there are people who can't take your good and your bad. So like, if you do something wrong, to me, I see you now as all bad. Like you're literally not in my life anymore. It's not like we can have a conversation about what you did. I don't expect Ogeyi to be perfect all the time. You're going to make mistakes in the relationship. You're going to do something. You're like, man, okay, that was kind of like, you threw me under the bus there, right? Oh, that was so mean. Like, let's talk about it. I don't see you as all bad now. You know what I mean? But there's you gossip. What happens is that now that person who doesn't have a center will now see that person and completely write them off completely. It's like, that's why I hate gossip completely. I've been a victim of that. And that's why I've been like,
me too,
been ostracized. Like all of a sudden you thought you were like a part of the group and someone says something about you, like, Julia, not part of the group anymore. Bye-bye. You know,
and
all and it's gone in
right
like that.
It's so harmful. And that's why I think having a coach or a counselor is good, because that person is not going to be in your circle infecting the other people's minds. Because I know some people say people don't change. That's not necessarily true. Like, you can change, you can evolve. It's just a matter of a choice that you make and when you're ready to make it. Most people are not ready to make it. And even if you are ready to make it, there are some people that will just not give you room for forgiveness. And there's a sick part of our culture that just wants to see something that's like perfect fall apart. Like, it's really sad that it's like, this perfect couple, that doesn't exist. Let's wait for, did you see what he did at the party? You know what I mean? It's like people are just waiting for something.
They're waiting for something to happen.
They are, but those people are miserable themselves, because who's happy? Like I used to tell my friends, I'm like, think about it. What happy person would be walking down the aisle for their wedding, goes, hold on, let me look at Twitter. Oh my gosh, did you see? You know, like,
yes.
You're not involved in all that nonsense, but you will be if there's nothing happening. That's why the idle mind is so dangerous sometimes. Yeah. So
you're right.
It's crazy.
Right. So for those of you who just joined us, I'm interviewing Ogeyi on her book that she wrote. It's 70 poems. Now, if you have a question for Ogeyi, she is a coach, and I'm telling you, this book, the way I would say it, not that my non-poetry way would be like coaching with poetry. Okay.
Yes.
She would describe it a whole different way because she is so poetic. But it is, for me, it was.
But you got it right on the dot with that, because when I was creating this book originally, my first book that I wrote, which was a self-help book talking about the 7 deadly sins and the 7 lively virtues and mixing them with the love languages and how people discern love after they're hurt. My friend was like, you need a workbook. And I was like, you're right, I should make a workbook. And I was making a workbook, and I was like, I don't know why I have all this poetry in my body right now. Like, I feel like maybe I need to connect with the audience in some way. And because I'm more artistic in my background, but I'm also like 50-50. There's a half of me that's like very intellectual, and the other half of me is just very artistic and wanting to do things, which is why I designed my own cover myself and created this myself. And I wanted to join the two together in one book. So my first book was just intellectual, all this stuff. And then this book was like artistic expression of, it's almost like a prequel to my first book. It's like, what happened to her where she learned all the knowledge? It's like, well,
yes,
this is the
I was wondering too. I was like, wait a minute, how does she know all this? Like, it was like, how do you know this stuff? You know, because it was really like very, very intellectual. Like I said, I mean,
right. And that's why with this book, I still have a workbook at the end, because I want people to, I'm not sure. Like, I feel like a lot of Christians might struggle with this, which is like talking about what happened, or, expressing oneself about the past without making it glorified in any way.
Right.
Like, how do we still give God the glory at the end of the story if we're going to be talking about and revealing about certain things? Like, I thought about the music I used to listen to, and all that stuff. It's like, I kind of had to go through that again and remember what it was like, so I can get in there. And then the people that can relate to that can see something, because there are people that they're not at level 7. They might be at level 1, and they see level 7. They're like, I can never relate to that. But it's like, hey, this is what level 1 looked like for me. And it's like, really? That's what it looked like for me. Get those people curious, It's like,
yeah, absolutely. By the way, let me comment about your hair, by the way. I see the good evil. I see you.
I was like, you know what? I should do a little bead with it.
It was like, whoa, so poetic. Okay. You're just oozing poetry and creativity everywhere. I'm thinking about Corella, she has the 2 sides.
And she had a very interesting story, narcissistic mother, and narcissism is big in our culture, and there's quite a few poems in there involving narcissism and that pull and that battle. That's the whole trying to conquer everything, king, queen, mentality in a way.
That is so true. Now, moving to the 4th poem, the second to last poem is Swine with Pearls.
Yes.
So could, let me see how many. Yeah, I wrote all over this poem. I said, I could never do what you do. I never knew this kind of evil until I knew you. How could you be so wicked and so vile? I mean, you don't hold back anything when you're writing.
Yes.
You're right. I mean, but these are like thoughts people would have, like when they
Mm-hmm.
discover, when they come face to face with an abuser or narcissistic abuser. Like, but usually it's like 20 years later, you're like, oh, evil, you know, and the shock. Just the sheer shock. I didn't know people could just lie like that and do things like that. What were you thinking? I think in that, were you thinking the same thing?
I had a lot of feelings and thoughts about that poem. It was just, I think when people are cheated on, there's something just so, it's like, I always picture like a picture, because especially if you're with somebody narcissistic, there's some type of imagery of like, oh my gosh, I had this amazing thing and it's like so great. And like, look at us smiling in our family picture. And like, when I think of Swine with Pearls, I just see the picture just getting corrosive, like a horror movie, and just crippling and just defiling. And it's like, we had such a beautiful picture. Why is this now mold? You know, like it's moldy. Like, how dare you just allow this to happen to such a perfect picture? But at the end of the day, it's not really a perfect picture because it's fictional. It's not real love. Because I could never, like, one of the things I do with clients, like when they're talking to me about their significant other and they're struggling and all that stuff, and they're like, I know he loves me though. I know he loves me though. And they go, oh, so when you love people, do you cheat on them? Is that something you do? I'm just curious. Like, when you love somebody, do you do this? No. Then what makes you think that somebody else does that? Like, what is that? But a lot of people have this thing, I know this person and all this stuff. And it's like, no, you have to accept that you didn't know them. They literally were like, hi, bye, honey. Hold on. Becky, your hair looks good. Come over. You know?
Just the pain of that. I think it's, and also denial too. I think also we need to go through the grieving process. For me, I think it was just being able to sit with my sadness and just admit that I really loved this person. This was the love of my life. I had to grieve that I love them so much and that it's over. Even when you leave, like a lot of the times when you're cheated on, you're leaving on a high. Like you're at the height of your love for them. So you're just like shocked and you have to grieve how much you love that person and not.
But even then, like love takes knowledge. And if you didn't know, like what you thought you knew wasn't true. And that's kind of how like I have helped people heal. It's like you keep saying you love this person. You just realized you didn't know them that well. Like, I don't know how much you want to still say and be like, but I love you. And I thought it's like, and okay, it's like people have to understand there are actors in this world. If you are, let's say, a theater performer and you just did a performance on stage and a person from the audience runs up to you and goes, oh my gosh, I just love you. You are amazing. I love you. And all this stuff. When you're that person receiving that, you know they don't know you. So it doesn't translate. And it just feels weird to hear that person still say those things. You're like, I'm nothing like that person on stage. Wow. Okay. You know, so that person doesn't take it the way that person thinks. You know, it's like if they knew they were pretending, if you knowingly manipulated someone, you know, like if you stole from somebody and they say, oh, you're a good person, I'm going to give you the money that you stole from me. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. This is what I really want. No, you're going to be like, this is weird. They're crazy. You know, they're in their bubble. So I encourage people to end the fantasy when it doesn't line with reality. End it. And it's okay. We've all been tricked before. You know, we all have. Everybody's capable of being tricked, even those that think, oh, I'll never be finessed by the devil.
Right. Yes. Oh, it's like someone telling you their story. Has someone ever told you a story about like how they were conned? And they tell you the story. They're like, man, and then they did that, and then you're like, at the end, you're like, that is not a story about how you were conned. That's a story about like how you're an idiot, like how you're stupid. I mean, like, because I thought the same way. I was like, you have to look and wonder, what is it in me that was so naive to believe that stuff?
Yeah.
Why am I so connable? You know what I mean?
But there are some really good con artists where they're conning everybody.
There's two. I think there's two sides of that. There's some people who are very good, and you can be conned. And you're just like, you would never have seen that coming. They're so good. They're miles ahead of you. But there's sometimes you're just like, wait a minute. There's something.
They weren't even good at it.
Yeah. And you know what? The people who get conned the most are wealthy people who are used to interacting with lots of money, yachts, and everything. Because if I talk to you like you're rich, and I talk to you like you do normal things, like you exchange thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, whatever, you're used to that kind of lingo. If I speak your lingo, that's how easily you can be conned, because you're used to walking in those circles. And so sometimes you have to be like, I shouldn't be able to just give my money away so easily. You gotta still be able to question things. Just because I have disposable money doesn't mean that I shouldn't question somebody that I don't know. Like, I don't know this person. That's what you were saying. I don't know this person. Would you give your money to someone you don't know, or you haven't vetted, or that you haven't done your research on? It's the same thing. I wouldn't date somebody or give my whole heart to somebody I don't know. And you have to be like, really, but we can talk about, that's a whole other topic about being conned, because it happens all the time. We have these Yahoo boys. That's a whole other topic. We should have like a Facebook Live and talk about Yahoo boys.
Oh yeah, we should
talk about that. So many things. Anyway, so last but not least is Jezebel mindset. This is like one of your longest poems.
Yes, I had to go in on that one.
Right. And the part that I wrote wow on, the stanza that I wrote, it says, "But we traded roles because I lacked faith in your ability, and it made me disgusted with your male fragility. Society as a whole tends to excuse your stupidity while having a twisted sense of the value of vulnerability. The fall of man starts with double-minded and passivity. When it comes to authority, it takes no responsibility. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, it doesn't follow the Trinity." Passivity. Talk about that.
Yeah. I was thinking about, I run my own Bible study group, and I remember just going, you know what, I'm just going to look up Jezebel. I'm just going to go into not just what I think Jezebel is, like I'm going to read the actual verses on Jezebel and study Ahab, because Ahab was very passive. Like I hear about complaints about, that Jezebel, but how many times do you hear Ahab? This is a total Ahab. You don't hear it.
You don't hear that. Yeah,
you just don't. Right. But it's like Jezebel's the narcissist, Ahab's the codependent person. And so it's a very good example of that dynamic of the narcissist with the codependent person. Ahab was sitting there crying about his vineyard, and she's like, "Oh, I'll go get," just crazy stuff. Just a control freak. Like that's what Jezebel was. She was controlling a bunch of different things. And so I was thinking about that, and like how there's a lot of women these days that it's like, well, no, I can wear the pants, but they're saying it angrily. It's not like, oh no, I think the pants look better than me on the skirt. Like I just prefer, I think it's amazing. It usually comes from like an angry place. Like I can do that. I can do like a man even better than them. It's like angry. It's not coming from a place of like, actually, I just prefer that role. Is that okay with you? It's not coming from that place for the majority. When I'm hearing about anger in terms of like feminism, and then people saying like, bashing men, and I don't like it. I don't like the bashing of the sexes. Actually really like makes me feel really bad, because it's like, I don't bash all apples just from one bad apple on the tree. I look at the tree and I'm like, did that apple get enough nutrients? And that's when you get into the codependent thing. So you have to be careful, right? So it's just a matter of like understanding, like, your anger, your pain changed you into something else because you didn't believe in that thing anymore. Not because you're organically like that. For the majority of people I meet, they're not like, oh, I want to be the one that's making all the money. Like, I'll talk to them like, oh, why is that? Like, because I want to make sure I'm okay. Like, it's just like very angry. It's not a matter of like, oh yeah, I just think it'd be cool. You know, like he could be stay-at-home dad. Cool. Like that's like, it doesn't usually come from that place. It comes from like a more Jezebel, like, I got this, you know, angry.
Yeah, they can. That's true. And you know, I think we all are on a journey to where we don't need to control men anymore, and that usually comes from trauma, because a lot of people have never had a safe man in their life. You know, they had an abusive father, abusive brothers, and they usually, it's a defense mechanism. That strong person and is a defense mechanism. And I think it's we're all transforming to become more and more like Mary. I think we are going from Eve, where we're Eve and wanting to control and be in control. And I think we're all transforming into someone who is more at a place where of receptivity to receive, someone who is cooperative, and someone who is able to be with their equal in a way that is understanding and all that stuff. I think it's a transformation process that we all.
It's a transformation process. And the thing about it is, like, nobody's supposed to be technically in control. It's supposed to be an equal. And that's the issue. So there's this movie called The Craft. I don't know if you've watched it.
I've not seen it. I don't think so.
Okay, so it's a movie with a bunch of witches. But one of the interesting things that happened to one of the witches is that she goes, I really want this guy to like me, right? And so they cast a spell to make the guy like her, but he's like really weak because all he cares about is her. Like, oh, I'm just waiting here for you, and you know, just like, it was just really. It wasn't what you wanted, but you wanted him, right? And it just made me think about things. I'm like, if you want somebody so bad that you don't care about their true desires, about what they want, like when you have your equal, you're like, hey, what do you want as well? You don't sit there and be like, I want you to want what I want and just do what I just give, you know, like there's something that you dehumanize that person.
Yes.
The minute you want to control them, you're saying, I don't care about your desires and needs. You proceed the way I do because I'm head king, queen, or, you know, and you're just going to follow my lead, you know, and a real partnership. Yeah. There's going to be leader helper dynamic. But a bad leader becomes a control freak and then can go into narcissism. A bad helper becomes codependent.
Yeah.
See, that's what, but nobody talks about the bad helper. They're
enablers. Oh, I hear that.
They're enablers. Nobody wants to demonize the person that was, you know, under the spell, right? Nobody, but at the same time, there is something wrong there. That has to be acknowledged so that you don't fall privy to being abused and controlled by somebody else.
Right.
So Jezebel stuff is like, you don't believe in, you know, being submissive to anything because why should you? Because blah, 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 blah. But when people really like someone, like they love the idea of being submissive to them. Oh, it's my honor. You know, like it's a different thing, right?
Right.
But you don't see many people in that position where they look at somebody and they're like, that person is a person of honor. And if they ask me to do something, I'm going to do it because they are such an honorable person.
Right.
And so love, honor, and obey. And people forgot the word honor and then got mad at obey, you know?
Right.
But if you have somebody honorable and they say, hey, can you, like if somebody saved your father's life, for example, and they said, hey, could you give me that fork and a knife and da-da-da? You wouldn't be like, am I your slave? You'd be like, absolutely. Like,
you saved my father's life.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
For you.
Yeah, you're not going to be going, excuse me, am I your slave? You see what I'm saying? But a person of honor, when they ask you for something, you know that they're not asking to do something to make you your slave. They're just, hey, you know, maybe they're helping your father by giving, you know, you're not going to look at it the same way because of the position and because that person is honorable. But if you see somebody dishonorable asking you for something, you're like, who are you? Who are you? You know?
Right. That's this has been awesome. I really love everything that you said. Let me tell, I know that you are, I'm going to type in your in the comments. I think we just do it on the description later, like how people can get a hold of your book.
Yes. So you would go to
your website.
Yes, www.ogeyi.com. So just my name, ogeyi.com. You can get my first book, my second book, all there, and you can follow all my socials on there, and I have blogs up there and everything. And if you want to contact me, go for it. So.
Okay, it's on there, so your book is also on Walmart somewhere.
My first book
somewhere in
Irvine? My first book is made it into Walmart. My second book is on its way. My book you can get at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and a slew of other different stores. But my first book just made it into Walmart, so I'm really happy about that. And then hopefully my poetry collection will make it there too. So Walmart picked it up as something that they want to sell. And but go to www.ogeyi.com and they'll give you the links to the Amazon and Barnes Nobles, and I also have the ebook version. So if some of you guys are Kindle readers or Nook readers, I got it on the Nook this time. My poetry collection. I advise checking it out there. So
that's good.
Excited.
And you are an author consultant, and that means, and I will be your next client for my next book. And then you'll do my cover for me and my interior and all that stuff. And then I will show it off and say, hey, Ogeyi is the one who helped me with this. Yeah. And I remember talking to you about the title, and my next book that I'm working on is Thought Patterns. And this is, I know it's going to be very vulnerable for me to write a book like this, thought patterns that laid the foundation for the worst marriage ever. But I don't think I want, maybe that would, I was like, should I write a book like that? I don't know, but maybe singles would want to know the thought patterns that could lead to like.
I think it's important that people not just know about what keeps something together, but how it falls apart. Because if you don't know how it falls apart, how can you protect your marriage and make sure that everything comes to fruition? So I think as long as you're being supportive and not just, writing negative to be negative, then it's not, but I think I know that you're coming from a place of like, hey, just so you know, like these are the things that I didn't.
These are the thought patterns, because it's talking about my own thoughts. This is what I used to think, and this is where it landed me. It's not even about the other person. There's another book about, so many books have been written about the other person, what they do to you, blah, blah, blah. How about?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that blames others. And honestly, once you start doing that, you don't elevate very easily because it's powerless. You can't change other people. You can change yourself though. So it's really, really a pattern of like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, like you did spot something and you said yes to it. Like for example, the narcissist, you were absolutely, like you did, you have to agree to get in the game. You agreed, and you have to get through the process of the thought patterns that got you to agree. Like, for example, I'll give this example to your viewers, and I hope this helps. So in high school, there's this guy I had a crush on, and I was walking down the stairs and he was walking behind me and he dropped his pen. And so I was like, ooh, this is an opportunity to talk to this cute guy. Like I was all excited. I fell down the stairs. Ooh. And I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And I grabbed his pen and I looked up at him and he looked panicked like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that girl fell. He ran, didn't even go get his pen, nothing. So the old me was like, oh, poor guy, he's just so scared. And I just want to give him his pen and hope that he's okay. Then the me now goes, hold up, that's not a gentleman. He didn't check to see if I was okay and left the scene of the crime. Oh my God. Bad character. But you see, it takes reframing and looking at it from a different lens and going, hold on a second. A person of value, if you saw this happen to them, would you still say that guy was just somebody that she just needs to help? You would be like, he left? He didn't even go, oh, I'm so sorry, miss. Are you okay? You know what I mean? Like, that's what you would be thinking about because you look at that person as somebody of value. But if you don't feel like you're valuable, you go, oh, hold on. Let me make sure I clean the pen really well and hand it back to him and say, is he okay? That's a lot of people. Like, they were taught and conditioned that that's what they're supposed to be doing. Wrong.
No.
Wrong.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that this was able to work. And so anyway, you guys, Synesthesialgia is on all the places that she's mentioned.
Yes, my poetry collection. And it has a workbook at the end. And if you would like to get my first book too, Love of Life, The Kingdom Way, which I also designed, like I even have a special cover underneath. And I'm very good at like coordinating things. Even with my book, I made the roses on the bottom. And a lot of people don't know how to do these things when making a book. And I've learned how to do some intricate things to make it special. So if you're looking for something like that, I'm your girl.
Awesome. Well, and if you're watching this through YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel.
Yes.
And next month, I'm literally revamping and doing so many other interesting things, moving into more like entrepreneurship.
Oh, I can't wait.
Type of stuff. Like I'm moving from trauma, not that, it's kind of like you help people as you grow. And so the next thing is like, how do we make money?
Yes.
How do we become successful? Let's do that, because that's the next phase of success. Thank you so much for joining me, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. This is great.